Now, the US, China and Russia are known for their top space programmes, but the UK's industry is also rapidly expanding, including the opening of a new space robotics facility.
Yeah, the testing lab in Bedfordshire is home to a pioneering robot called Mario, as our reporter Nicola Hazler has been finding out.
Meet Mario. He's not very fast, but he is planning to be very useful in space. All those arms are going to be building flat-pack structures 20,000 miles above our heads. This new astralab where Mario is being tested is set up to be like space, so it's black and it has a frictionless floor, so the robot can glide around.
And why do we need a DIY enthusiast in space? Well, the bigger the devices we can send up into space, the better our communications will be down here. But to get a huge structure up into space would take a massive rocket, and that's where things can go wrong. So why not send Mario up to build it from smaller pieces?
It can crawl out of the spacecraft with multiple docking points around it, and then try to get the modular structures out and then put one by one together. And then the more it fuses structures together, it can crawl on the structures too. And slowly we can build a huge mega structure.
And those mega structures that Mario can build could hold big antennas or even a space-based solar farm. The new lab is one of a growing number of innovative projects in the Oxford to Cambridge corridor. And that's why Science Minister Sir Patrick Vallance, who's been given the job of leading growth here, came to open it.
The idea of the Oxford-Cambridge Growth Corridor is we're building on strengths. We're building on strengths of universities, Oxford, Cambridge and here at Cranfield, and the existing businesses that are here. And that's everything from life sciences to computing to the sorts of aerospace work going on, hydrogen, clean energy. Joining this up will create one of the great clusters of innovation across the world.
And there'll be more UK investment in space technology, helped by what the scientists here have called Mario Land. Nicola Hazler, BBC News.
Right, we're joined by the astrophysicist Eamon Kerins, who's from the Jodrell Bank Centre for Astrophysics in Cheshire. He's here. Good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. We were just chatting while the film was on there, and you made the point, you know, at times of financial hardship, do we really need to be spending all this money on space and exploration of things when people are struggling?
No, and it's a really fair question. So, and what I tell people, you know, as somebody who works in astrophysics, is that actually the space sector area and the wider physics area, these are motors to our economy. For every pound of taxpayers' money, these sectors generate multiples of that. So take, for example, the space sector. That's the UK Space Agency, which is government money, our money.
Which is about 7% of the global space economy,
yeah, so,
I think.
And so the UK Space Agency is spending something like about £700 million a year, but the space economy here in the UK is generating around £18 billion a year. So, you know, my answer simply, it's an understandable question about, you know, should we use that money to build schools, build hospitals, mend our roads? If we don't invest in these areas that are actually generators of income to our economy, then you know, how can we afford not to? Basically, if we want those schools, hospitals, roads, etc., these are the kinds of sectors that are going to generate the money to allow us to do that.
How are they generating that money? Where's that coming from?
It's coming really, so government money, our money, you should remember that, is basically a honeypot to bring in the commercial businesses to put in their own money for research and development, for generating new technologies. And, you know, if you think of our everyday lives, communication to us now is essential, right? I mean, it's almost like the fourth utility next to water, gas, electricity, right? So, and a lot of that communication is done in space, you know, via communication satellites. And we're here on television now. There's a lot of people perhaps watching this via satellite dishes. The satellite television industry is a very large chunk, actually, of that £18 billion into our economy. So that's where the money is coming from, and we're all benefiting at some level from that.
And how important is it to maintain your pegging globally in these areas of tech?
Well, it's a very rapidly moving sector, right? So if you do, you've really got to invest with solid future plans. You can't afford to just keep up, because with the pace of growth of these sectors, it would be so easy to get left behind. So I think the UK is quite rightly acknowledged as a world leader in some of these areas, whether it's direct-to-home broadcasting, or whether it's we've just seen the package there about robotics and constructing things in space. There's it's a leader in governance in space and so on. So there are many different facets there that we do have leadership positions in, but those leadership positions are easily lost. So we've really got to make sure that right through the chain of kind of things where I motivate, hopefully, the next generation of scientists by talking about space, and then I teach them when they're at university, and many of those scientists go out into the space industry and physics industry, which is even larger still. It's about 11% of our economy, the physics-related industry, twice the size of the construction industry. And so, funding at that level is important, and then onto development of ideas and hardware, and then bringing it out in a commercially successful way. So all of that chain needs to be well funded to bring the success that we're seeing.
It's making headlines now again because there's talk about going to Mars. We saw SpaceX they've done lots of good things, but obviously had a setback the other day. This is the SpaceX launch. The one that went to the moon that toppled over the other day.
Yes.
There's lots more talk about space. It's more private sector, as you said, rather than state-backed, although obviously there's huge state backing still. Do we lose sight of things? Is the human travel in space thing that people are talking about, going to Mars and things like that, does that distract us from the granular stuff that needs to be done to keep life on Earth going?
I mean,
or are the two sort of not mutually exclusive?
I like to think they are intertwined in the sense that obviously we are very reliant on our everyday lives now in all sorts of ways, from the space sector, from satellites that are up there doing all kinds of essential tasks.
10,000 of them are apparently, is that right?
At least I would have thought. I mean, probably SpaceX alone is somewhere near that number. So, and that's another issue, of course, is the crowding of space. But I like to think human exploration, I think, does have a place in that. I think it really, going back to bringing, inspiring people to come into sciences, and certainly I was inspired back in the day by the moon landings, and I think the next generation too. So I think we need to balance both of those things. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roger.
And
Really
it's just part of the human spirit to keep going, keep pushing those
Absolutely.
boundaries.
Push the boundaries.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Eamon.
Cheers, Neil.